the uncomfortable subjects like psychosis, madness, suicide, death, all of the difficult subjects that people find a bit difficult to enter. Those two sides, to me, needed to be brought into balance. And that's why I had lots of psych nurses recommend people to me, because they would say, Odette's pretty grounded, you know.
How long did it take to get the book back from them?
Well, fortunately, as I talk about in the writers group that I joined, there was I think it's your signature, that because you may be more than just an author, like, you know, you are, you know, right. you're a myriad of many things. So
do you dream of adding your very own book to the collection of books that have already been written? Do you wonder where to start or how to finish? Does the idea of writing a book seem too overwhelming? Do you just want to polish up those writing skills or stay motivated? Do you wonder what to write about? Everything you need to help you write, stay motivated, and self-publish your own book is right here on one channel. And why? Well, because it's time to get over the writer's hump and just do it. You can write anything. Yep, you can write a book. Hello, and welcome to another great episode of A Book. As you know, this channel is dedicated to interviewing authors. We interview authors from all around the world, and today is no exception. We have a wonderful author today from Australia. Her name is Odette, and I know that you are going to enjoy listening to her. But before we get into that, do me a favor. Hit that like and subscribe button, because that helps our authors out. So if you enjoy this channel, please subscribe to it. Make sure that you're getting the latest on all of your favorite authors. Now, let's get to Odette. Odette, welcome to the channel. I am so glad that you are here today.
thank you so much for having me. It's an early morning delight.
Well, it's early morning for you, but it is almost early evening for me. And I believe we are a day apart. We're not just a few hours apart. Is that correct?
We're a day apart. Yes, yeah. But the beauty of technology is we can be in the same time frame, kind of.
I love that. I do. I was interviewing someone yesterday from England, and here I am in the United States. And I said, that is the wonderful thing about technology, is that I get to do this. I get to visit with authors from everywhere. I've had people from South Africa, from Australia, from just everywhere. And it's a beautiful thing. It's just wonderful. So
we get to kind of time travel.
We do. Yeah. It's this way of being shifting from one place to another without ever actually getting there, right? Exactly. So it's pretty exciting. Exactly. Odette, I'm so glad that you're here, because I know that you have a book that you want to tell us all about today. But before we get into your book, tell us about yourself and you as a writer.
So, my name is Odette Nightsky. I'm a counselor, a shaman, contemporary shamanic counselor, and an author. I love to write about the uncomfortable subjects like psychosis, madness, suicide, death, all of the difficult subjects that people find a bit difficult to enter. I feel very comfortable in those subjects, and I like to kind of translate from the heady intellectual versions to the layman's versions we can all understand and we can all relate to.
Yes. Not very many people are comfortable writing on those subjects. So what is it that makes you feel so comfortable with those subjects?
I think because of my own lived experience. You know, I went through quite a difficult, dark night of the soul passage, which I'm sure many people could relate to. And from there, I was sort of propelled to write about it, because I couldn't find books I wanted to resource to help me. And I kept searching for them. I found very intellectual ones like Jung and, you know, psychology type ones, but I couldn't find any one that just spoke to me as a human being. And then I had this nudge from within, well, you have to write it. And of course, like many creative people, I was like, no, not me. And, you know, I'm not, you know, why me? Why me? But then it became a kind of therapeutic process And then a lot of people said, oh my goodness, you're inside my head. This is how I feel. This is how I see it.
Oh,
And from then on, it's been like kind of walking alongside me constantly. Like, I love the craft of writing, and I love exploring people's psyches and helping them sort of discover more about themselves that they enjoy and they can connect to, really.
yes. Well, we have something in common because my degree is in psychology. So I am one of those people who came at it from a very analytical textbook
Yeah.
style, more so than you. Of course, it sounds like you're coming at it more from the internal spiritual side of things, and I
Yeah.
approach things in the psychology realm. So
Yeah.
yes, but I am very fascinated with people and helping people and watching other
Yeah.
people succeed. I think that's one of the most beautiful things in life that we can do, is help somebody
Absolutely.
else succeed.
Absolutely. To
Yeah.
be of service in some way, like what you're doing is being service to authors,
Yes.
and people that
Yeah.
want to write. I like being of service. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So tell me a little bit more, go into a little bit more detail about, you touched on the psychosis. Of course, I was interested in that. So
Mm.
talk a little about that and how you are able to help people through that.
Well, I think, because I've been on both sides, I've had the lived experience and I've worked in mental health myself as a case manager of many people with what I would like to term as acute sensitivity, because the labels can kind of box us into an area that might not fit our original selves or who we think we are. Yeah.
Indeed.
So went to work in mental health because I want to see both sides. I didn't want to sit on one side of the line. I want to see both sides of the line. So I worked with psychologists, like what you trained in, so I could balance them both. Yeah. And I think that's very important to have that balance, because if you don't have that balance, you can fly out a bit too far. Yeah.
Correct.
And if you have that too intellectual head, you may be not able to expand and own the gifts that you have in that
Mm.
sensitivity.
Oh, that's
So
beautiful.
those two sides to me needed to be brought into balance. And that's why I had lots of psych nurses recommend people to me, because they would say, Odette's pretty grounded, she won't set you off on maybe another psychotic episode. So I am pretty practical. I'm pretty down to earth, but I think there's also a vast sort of deeper inner world that in the subconscious that we can work with. And I do it in a shamanic way, which is quite imaginative, which is no drugs, no help in that way. And it's a way to explore your inner psyche and find safety within, which is, I think, is probably the most paramount thing for people in psychosis, because they feel very fearful about where they're
Yes.
at. And
Yes.
the
This is
outside
true.
world is very frightening, but also the inside world is very frightening. So, what I like to be of service is to build the safety on the inside, so they can build a sense of themselves in this world, can be extremely overwhelming.
Yes, yeah. So like, I'm just curious about something. If somebody came to you, what would your typical client look like? Walk us through that process. So let's say I'm somebody who's struggling and I come
Mm,
to you,
yeah.
what then would we do together, you and I?
Okay, so it would be a Skype session, because I do that internationally. Yeah. And I think my credo is everybody's quite different. We're all unique. And there's not one thing that suits every person. So, a bit like you said, you're curious about people. I'm very curious about people. I want to know what makes you sing, what makes you sad. So it's a bit like finding out what you need, what your wants are, because that's actually quite paramount. What are you looking for? What do you need more of, or what are you lacking?
Oh,
And how can I be of service to that? And it usually has a shamanic flavor to it, but I have what I call my medicine bag with multiple tools in it to fit all sorts of different unique personalities.
Wonderful.
So I'm there to walk alongside you in your uniqueness and find out what your needs are, basically. So my typical client is usually right now. It goes through different phases, of course. But right now, the majority of women trying to recover from childhood abuse and
Mm.
find real kind of not completely be triggered all over again and again and again 24/7. Yeah. There's I have women that have paranormal experiences or feel like there's a ghost in the room or there's a voice in their head or there's something after them. So I do a lot of what's called psychopomp, helping people out to find out what's going on that they think, I don't know what this is, but this is very weird and I don't like it.
Yes.
I kind of classify myself as a bit like a spiritual detective. And I do like murder mysteries as well. So I'm kind of going in saying, tell me more. Let me be
Yes.
a Sherlock Holmes in this area for you. Yeah. So it's
Oh,
kind of it's like a gentle walk with me, but my main aim is to find your needs, to build safety on the inside, and to give you a resource that you can hang on to and go back to when things get really rough. And I know that by my experience, I built it. So I know this is true. There's some safe place I can always go back to when the world isn't safe outside. You can find safety inside. And that's what I offer people to kind of grow within them, if that makes
wow.
sense.
Wow. Yes. So I spent 19 years in the counseling or coaching realm, and I dealt
Mm,
a lot in mental health.
yeah.
Um, but as a life coach, which I did actually more successfully, I think, than my counseling career. As a life coach, I was able to tailor make these programs for individuals. And I so
Yeah.
enjoyed that because I don't believe that there is a one size fits all
Mm,
process, and I believe
not at
that
all.
we have to work with some people's individuality. And it sounds like that's exactly what you do.
That's it. And people come to me who are on medication, who are not on medication, who want to minimize their medication. It's what works for you. It's not
Yes.
about what I think is best. It's what suits your unique personality. Yeah. And to find the gifts that you have, because even in the
Mhm.
psychosis or the what I call the high sensitivity, there's gifts in there.
Oh,
Yeah. Like you
yes.
have abilities, they're just kind of out of balance. So let's find a balance so you can hone these abilities. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful, so beautiful. So
Mm.
through these experiences and the fact that you are intrigued by people and what makes them who they are, you
Mm.
came up with this idea for this book, and I think you said it. This voice came to you that said you're the one who has to write this because there wasn't something else like that. When
Yeah.
did you come up with the idea for this book? How long ago
Well,
was that?
my first book, The Bridge Between Two Worlds, A Shaman's View of Acute Sensitivity and Schizophrenia, came out in 1999.
Oh,
That
quite a
was
while
the
ago.
first prodding. That was the first, you have to write this, you have to write this. And then I thought I was kind of done and dusted, right?
Mm.
And it was sort of like, oh, everybody has that one book inside them. That belief that everybody has one book. And but I'd had something from a very early age when I was about 16. I think I was quite obsessed with Joan of Arc and the whole story about her. And I had this idea that that should be made into some kind of modern tale. And then I saw a program, I think it was an American series about Joan of Arc or something like that. And I thought, "Oh, they've already done it."
Ah,
But I still had this idea that was building after working in mental health and seeing what I was seeing all the clients and having my own experience. It was like a story was lurking within. But I even though my first name is French, I don't have a connection to France, although it's been to Paris and it's beautiful. I
oh,
don't have any real feeling connection to it. And then I thought, well, hang on, what do I have a connection to? and I'm Scottish, I have such strong Scottish ancestry. So as soon as I found the historical figure that I was looking for in Scotland, it's a bit like spirit just said, and we're off and running. And it was like I was off and running.
You
And
had the
it's like I'd found
story.
the piece. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's incredible. Okay. So the book comes to you and you decide that you're going to write this. What was that process like?
Very different from a nonfiction book.
Mhm.
So my
I'm going
first,
to add to that because as someone who started off writing nonfiction, my first 5 books were nonfiction. First 6 books were nonfiction, and then suddenly switched to a fantasy novel. Oh, what a different process that was.
wow,
Yeah.
I got overwhelmed quite a bit, I must
Mm.
admit, because I thought, how do you weave it? And that was the word that kept coming up, right? In nonfiction, I could put everything in little chapters and everything in neat little boxes, but with I had to weave, and that was I admit I was a bit daunted and a bit frightened by the weaving of it. But then I joined a writers group, which I can highly recommend to many people who are starting out. Excuse me. If you join a local writers group, what it does is it doesn't, you know, I'm not into comparing. I think that's dangerous to compare yourself to others.
Very. Mhm.
But what I like about writers group is it made me compete against myself. It made me
Yes.
step up to say, I want to come back to the writers group with something to share that I've actually done this week. So it stepped up my game to keep going. And that actually I could credit this writer group for helping me finish this novel because it really kept up my game. It made me feel like I wasn't isolated, that I could have people to chat with about writing, that I heard some other ideas that I thought, oh, I didn't think of it that way, as in people's feedback. And I thought, which kind of sparked an idea. I
Oh,
wrote all the feedback down and then I went back and decided, is this helpful? Do I agree with this? Used it or not used it? So I really highly recommend writers group in your local area because I think it helps you keep it up, keep going when you're kind of you're losing you're
yeah.
losing faith.
Yes,
But
yes. And
what I
and I will say
yeah
there are people who don't have local writers groups. And
yeah
that's
yeah
where getting involved in an online group can be so
exactly.
impactful. It can be so helpful to anybody.
Yes, I would say wherever you can find a writers group, join it. You might not be the right one to start with, but keep looking because they really give you that bit of backup that you need to keep going.
Mm.
Because it is the writing world has changed, the publishing world has changed a
Oh, so
lot. A
much.
lot of
Yes.
people feel like, oh, how am I going to get my story out there? But being with other writers makes you feel a lot less isolated.
Oh, yeah. And I always say that writing is an isolated endeavor.
Exactly,
And
exactly.
so having that opportunity to connect with other people is so
Yeah,
valuable. So when you
yeah.
started writing, did you do an outline first? Or are you somebody
I'm
who
a
just sat
pantser.
down and, yeah?
Yeah, I'm a pantser by nature. I kind of had the bones of it, kind of what I thought the bones, what I thought the bones were. But what I found was, which surprised me a lot, that when I went into the darker aspects of the story, it would just write itself, and I just go, where am I going? Where's this going? Oh my God, this is horrible. Where's it going? And I go, oh, this is great. So
Oh,
it did start to have a real life of its own and take on its own way of doing things. Like characters would turn up, and I'd go, okay, let's just see where we're going. And then it's like, oh wow, okay, great. So I'm very much like that. It very much wanted to write itself in a lot of
mm.
ways. Yeah.
Yes, I love that. I love that. I'm not an outliner. I have an idea of where I want to go, and I
Yeah.
probably should do a much better job of outlining and keeping better track of characters and that sort of thing. But I'm one of these people where if it's in my brain, it just wants to pop out
Exactly.
and I follow it.
Exactly.
I'm very much
Exactly.
like you, just go where it takes me.
Yeah.
I'm in the process of trying to finish another book that I'm writing, and
Brave of
the
you to do a
idea
second
is
one. I'm
so
still recovering from the first.
the idea is still, it's so crisp in my mind. I know exactly where I want it to go. And so I have that lined out, the
Yeah.
storyline itself is lined out. But as I sit down to write the individual chapters, and I'm a chapter by chapter sort of person,
Yeah.
what the contents of that chapter end up being is, who knows? It's anybody's
That's it.
mystery, but it's
That's it.
working. And I honestly think it's one of my best writings. It won't be out for another month or two, but I'm very excited
Wonderful.
about it. So,
That's
okay. So
wonderful.
you sat down and started writing this. How long did it take you to write?
I think I don't have that, a right to sit down for an hour or 2 hours a day. I'm not like that. I'm very much go, 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 and then go off and bubble. Go, 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 as in right, go off and bubble for a while. So I think it took a while, it took maybe a good few years when I really sat down. It probably took 3 years when I fully sat down and really committed to it. But also I'm a carer for an elder and I'm a counselor. So, time
Life.
wise, it was like finding time, which I think a
Yes.
lot of people suffer from.
It's so true.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, and it's just like, where do I find the time to do this? So that was a bit of a battle, but I just thought, no, it's going to come when it's going to come in its right time. And and I have to say, finding good editors and proofreaders, I couldn't do it without them
Oh,
because as my editor says, my grammar's not so bad, but my punctuation's appalling as a writer. Let's be
um,
real here. I was terrible at spelling and grammar when I was a kid. Not all writers have to be brilliant at the language.
I am
You
so
just have to get
glad.
really good editors.
I am so glad that you said that, because I believe that there are people out there who have beautiful stories to tell and
Yeah.
feel held back by the fact that they may not have those technical writing skills that they think they have to have. And it's just, we don't live in a day and age. We have autocorrect, we have all sorts
Yeah.
of tools at our disposal that can help us with that. And finding an editor, like you said, and a proofreader is invaluable. Just do
Yeah.
that, but get the
Yeah.
story out.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I would encourage anybody, even if you think you're crap at writing, as you said, but you have a story to tell, don't let that stop you.
No,
Yeah.
no,
Because
no,
it didn't stop me.
no. And I really believe there is no obstacle when it comes to writing that cannot be overcome in today's world. But, along those
Absolutely.
lines, I would like for us to pause for just a moment and hear a message about Victory Vision Publishing. So, as you all know, Victory Vision Publishing does sponsor this channel, and they do things like edit your book and help you with formatting. They do a lot when it comes to getting your book published. And so, we're going to go over and hear from them, and we'll be back in just a minute. Hey everyone, are you stuck trying to figure out how to finish writing or publishing your book? Well, let me tell you about Victory Vision Publishing. Victory Vision Publishing is there to help you cross that finish line. They have package plans that are tailor-made just for your individual needs. They have learning opportunities where you can discover ways of overcoming some obstacles that you might have. Adam Fleming is a wonderful CEO, and they are a fully staffed team just waiting to help you edit, layout, maybe make a cover for your book. Go ahead and join their email list and check out some of the wonderful books and wonderful authors that they have already helped get published. Yep, Victory Vision is definitely the way to go if you feel stuck and just want some support in getting your book out to the world. You're only one book away from changing the world. victoryvision.org. Okay, we're back, and we have been talking with Odette. Odette, you were telling us before we went on break that finding an editor is something that is invaluable. So it took you about 3 years to complete your book, and then you sent it off to someone who helped with punctuation, spelling, any of those grammatical errors that may have existed. How long did it take to get the book back from them?
Well, fortunately, as I talk about in the writers group that I joined, there was a who has become a very dear friend, a woman in there, and her name is Amanda McLeod, and writes she writes wonderfully, but she edits brilliantly.
Oh,
So, excuse me, she was more than happy to edit it, and she kind of knew me a little bit, so that helped. But she's what I call a wonderful swordswoman, right? She's clean, she cuts well.
oh,
I didn't feel
beautiful.
intimidated by her. She gave me compliments where compliments were. She just showed me what wasn't needed. She was absolutely brilliant,
That you can't beat
and
that.
yeah, and it didn't take long because she was so engaged and she kept sending me messages, going yay and having all these emotions. So it
Oh,
was a really lovely experience. And then I just got a final proofing done at the end, just for every little dot and T, because that was really important to me, regarding the first one. The first one was fine, but it's a bit like you can still find errors,
oh, of course.
after you publish something. It's like, oh, I'm never going to do that again. So
Yes.
this time was get everything absolutely correct.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Well, they say that even manuscripts from professional publishing
Oh,
companies have errors. They
yeah.
allow for a certain margin of error in it because it
Mm.
is so difficult when you're talking about thousands and thousands of written word to find every single possible error that may exist. I don't know.
Exactly.
I
And
don't worry as much as I used to about that. First off, my writing has gotten better, and I think everybody's does. The more you
yes,
do it, the better you
yes,
get. And so I don't have
exactly.
as many mistakes. But secondly, I've put books out there that have had very grotesque errors, and yet people still enjoyed them. So I don't know. It is what it is, I guess. And you can always go
Exactly.
back. That's the nice thing. You can always go back and revise things now. It
That's
didn't
right.
used to be like that, but
Exactly.
now technology has made it so easy that we can make all the revisions that we need to. Isn't that
Yeah.
fantastic? And so what we're going to do, if it's okay with you, is we are going to pull up your website. I want people to see where they can go to find your book, and I want you to tell us a little bit more about the book itself. So give me just a minute. We're going to pull that up.
Sure.
All right. So this is your website, uh,
Mhm.
contemporaryshaman.net. People can find that there. I got a bar in the way of my screen here, so they can go find that. And if they get there, this is your homepage. But if they get there, there's several tabs they can click on, and one of those is your books tab. And I want to pull that up so people know where to go to find your books. And this is the latest one that we're talking about here, Voices
Voices
Within,
within.
correct?
Mhm.
So can you
Exactly.
tell us a little bit more about the book itself?
Okay, so it's based on a story of a young woman living in Sydney, and she ends up in a psych ward. And basically, it's a journey of her discovering her sanity and how she can find balance. And it's a subject sort of weaved with shamanism, weaved with 16th century witchcraft from Scotland, and it gives a different perspective on schizophrenia and what it could look like from a different point of view. But mainly, it's a story of resilience, of how she comes through, a bit like I was talking about clients, to find her own uniqueness, to find her own path, and to find her own way.
Oh my.
Most of the feedback I've gotten is people have cried, people have wanted to throw the book, um, with a couple of characters that they don't like. People have laughed out loud, and people have related to different characters. So it's not an easy read. It's got some very dark moments in it. So there is warnings, to move away if you get a bit upset. But generally, it's a story of a young woman's resilience and finding her own way through mental health.
Oh my. Wow. Okay, well, we are going to leave a link to your website in the description of this video so that people can go to find that. It sounds to me, correct me if I'm wrong on this, let me get this page closed here. It sounds to me as if, although this is written in a nonfiction way, there's an opportunity for somebody to heal through this.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Because a lot of people find they identify with her in different ways. They identify with her struggle and her different perspective of wanting to look at things differently. And it's not negating the medical model so much as wanting it to expand and be more holistic to include different points of view.
mm. Oh, I love that. It isn't very often that you find a piece of literature that is done this way. It is one or the other. We either take people into a fantasy realm and a fiction realm, or we do nonfiction and we give them just the facts. And so you have merged, it sounds like, these two things, and you've done an allegorical piece of writing where somebody can actually get more than just the entertainment of the story out of it. And I love that. I think that is beautiful.
Yeah,
Moving
and it
people
has
beyond
the
the story.
yeah, it has that shamanic flavor. So you can see how shamanism can be beneficial in mental health, how it can work within the psyche to actually enhance the balance as opposed to set it off worse. Yeah.
For people who may not be familiar with that terminology, can you explain the shamanism aspect of it just a little bit more?
Okay. It's a big subject. So shamanism is a way of, say if you have somebody who has what psychiatry would call delusions, they're having sort of dreams in reality that are very outside the box, and they may have encounters with other beings, right? In shamanism, it's not, it's looked on as quite normal, yeah. But in shamanism, it shows you how to deal with those other dimensional experiences so you can stay balanced. Whereas in sort of ordinary reality, we might get medication for it. Yeah, it's a way to keep you sort of balanced, right?
I see.
With shamanism, it's a way to navigate the other realms, the sort of unseen realms, in a way that you can find balance in that area of your life, which a lot of people who experience psychosis, that's a lot of what they experience. They experience a lot of things that they don't understand. It's a bit like being in the dreamland a lot, and they don't know how to get out of the dream, you know.
Yes.
And shamanism has a way of helping you navigate that dream world without really coming to harm. Yeah, the way I do it anyway. You know, shamanism is sort of like the most ancient rite of spiritual paths. Yeah, it was here before religion, you know, many religions. It's very old, and there are many traditional shamans. There's a lot of people here in the world, really, you know, with ancestry of traditions. But we in this contemporary world need something that's going to work for us. We need a type of shaman that's going to work for every day when we have to go pick up the kids, or where we have to, you know, go get the groceries type of life. We need a way that shamanism can be integrated into our daily life.
So it's a way to
And this is the
exist
way
in both the everyday life and participate in that as to the best of your functioning ability, and still be able to be who you are.
yeah, it's like being able to be in both worlds in a balanced state.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Not to be in that world flying off and needing to end up in a psych ward, not to be in this word so dull that your imagination is dead because you're afraid of it, is to find the balance between the two so
Wow.
you can live both worlds in harmony.
What an interesting process. So in the meantime, somebody who maybe is not struggling with those issues can still enjoy the book.
I find that a lot of people who have relatives who suffer psychosis find it very interesting.
Mm.
Yeah. I had I think there's a review of a mental health advocate who has a son who's had psychosis for a long time, and he said he's found so many insights of how to approach his son better, So I think a lot of people, I mean, I get quite a lot of people saying it's just a great story regardless. It's a great tale. So,
Yes.
even if they're not into the subject, they're going, oh, it's a great tale. And,
It's
oh, I felt the
captivating.
feminism, or I felt this, or I felt this. So,
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Well, I'm very excited. I'm looking forward. I think this is one of the books that I might find time to read, because I am so
I
fascinated
love
with
that.
people and mental health, and those are subjects that I'm always interested in. So I'm looking forward to that. I would like to pull this up just one more time, because I want people to remember what this cover looks like. Speaking of cover, did you make your own cover, or did you have someone do that for you?
The picture itself is from Mark Potts, who is an artist, and he also did the cover for my first book, and will have the cover for my third. I just love his
Oh,
art. His art is just so beautiful, and there's a little business called Sleepy Hollow that just did the design for me. I like to employ small business people. That's one of my things in the great corporate world that we live in today, is that I like to help small business, like artists who, are trying to make a living. So
and
that's
that
one of
is,
my
I
one of
do
my
too. I think that
important
is so
things.
wonderful. Anybody can go find one of these big companies and pay thousands and thousands of dollars
Mm.
and have them do it. But I think it is such a beautiful thing when you connect with a small business who's trying to grow, and you're trying to grow. And this is what I believe, that all boats rise when the tide goes up. Yeah.
No, that's
So.
lovely. I love that.
So
I
yeah,
love
we all
that.
just help each other. I have also found that the people in the writing world are such generous people. We give of ourselves, we give of our time, and we
Yeah.
connect, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
exactly.
well,
Exactly.
I have a question. We were just looking at your website, and something I would am interested in hearing from your perspective, because you do have such a beautiful website. Do you find value in authors' websites? I know there are authors out there constantly trying to market their books, and some have websites and some do not. They just rely solely on, say, their Amazon link or wherever their book is linked to. What value, if any, do you find in having that website?
I think it gives you your unique stamp that stands you out in the crowd in some way. And as we've talked about this uniqueness, like everybody has their own unique story. I think that's the same with the website. I think it's your signature that because you may be more than just an author, like you are,
Right.
you're a myriad of many things. So I think if you're more than just a one book, yeah, or maybe if you're just a one book that just has a unique signature, yeah, I'd have a website for sure, because I know that. I mean, I'm looking at a grand pile of books beside my bed here and a grand pile of books up there. I'm always, if I love a book, I want to know about the author, and I'm going to go and
Yes.
find them
Yes.
and dive into them. I want to know who they are. So
Yes.
yes, I really recommend having a website, absolutely, to show your unique self.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that is good advice. So my personal struggle, and I'm on this quest to decide whether I want to continue with a personal website, because I have one for my business, my podcast, and of course my books and some of my authors that I've had on the show are on there. And so I'm trying to decide, is it worth having a separate website for? Do you spend a lot of time having to, I'm just curious for myself, do you spend a lot of time having to manage that website?
No, I'm very much it's a new one of late. I had one before. It's a new one of late. But no, I try and set things up so they work themselves, that I don't have to manage it. I mean, all the emails that come in, of course, I
Emails.
have to do that. But no, the website and the orders, like through my website, all those links are to, like, you have the Kindle link, you have, if you want to buy it in US, my books come from England as
Yeah,
well.
okay.
They're all the links through them, so I don't have to do anything basically.
It's just set up for you. Yes, then
Yeah,
that helps
yeah.
too. If you could leave somebody who is thinking about writing a book with just one piece of advice, what would that be?
There is nobody like you on this
Oh,
planet. There's nobody like you that has your voice and has your story. Nobody.
uh,
Make
uh,
your mark.
make your mark. Oh, good stuff. That is such good stuff. Odette, we've had fun today. I've enjoyed listening to
Ah,
you.
it's
And I
been a
think you have
pleasure.
so much to say. And I am so curious about this book. It's one that I am definitely going to have to check out
Thank you.
because it resonates with my
Yeah,
professional
it's your
background.
background.
So
Yeah.
yes, of course. So I'm definitely going to check it out. Well, I'd like to remind the audience that if you are looking for a good read, you definitely want to go check out Odette's writing. And we're just going to show you that one more time because I think it's so worth seeing. Voices Within is the name of this book. And we've been talking to Odette, who has shared that with us. You can find that on her website. We'll leave a link in the description, but in case you don't go over there, it is contemporaryshaman.net. So yes, make sure that you go check out her book. Odette, thank you so much for sharing a part of
Thank you,
yourself
Laura.
with
It's been an
us.
absolute pleasure.
Oh,
Absolute pleasure. And thank you so much for the
uh,
invitation.
oh, I appreciate you very much. We'll have to have you again sometime. This has been
I would
a
love that.
wonderful conversation. I do
Thank you
appreciate it.
so much.
You have been listening to Odette Nightsky, and she was talking about her book today, Voices Within. Make sure that you go and check out her website. You'll want to go to contemporaryshaman.net and find out all about her. She's such a fascinating woman, and we've just had such a good time listening to her. I appreciate you staying with us today and giving up a piece of your time. As always, have a wonderful day, and God bless.